Okay, so the Mario Kart series has amassed over 150 million sales since the release of Super Mario Kart in 1992, and since then there have been 14 games in the series. In my 15 years of existing on this earth, I've played 7 Mario Kart games, and my personal favourite is Mario Kart Wii. Mario Kart Wii had an amazing roster of characters, a great battle mode, and actually managed to include motion controls in a fun way. My favourite part of the game, however, is the tracks you actually race on. There are 32 of them, and so in this video I'm going to be ranking every single track from Mario Kart Wii. I'm going to be ranking each track based on how memorable they are and how fun I think they are. Keep in mind this video is going to be based entirely on my opinion, so don't get mad if your favourite track isn't number 1. Also, seeing as there are 32 tracks in Mario Kart Wii, I'm not going to be spending too much time talking about each track, as I don't want the video to be half an hour long. And with all that said, let's start the video. Coming in at number 32, we have Luigi Circuit. There is literally nothing memorable about this course at all, other than the big balloon of Luigi, and so I reckon this is the most boring course in Mario Kart Wii. Next up, we've got Yoshi Falls. When I was younger, I used to love this course for some reason, but looking back at it, there really isn't anything special about it. The setting and soundtrack are alright, but the track is basically just a plain circle that doesn't make for fun races. Mario Circuit Free from the SNES is the next track on the list. There are some cool shortcuts you can do if you have a mushroom on you, but other than that, there honestly isn't too much to say about this track. Moo Moo Meadows is another track that I love when I was younger, but looking back at all the tracks from the game to make this video, I realized that the track isn't as good as I once thought it was. I still think it's cool that there are cows that get in the way of the race, but they're pretty easy to avoid, and other than the cows, the track is just plain boring. Track number 28 is Bowser's Castle Free. Usually the Bowser's Castle tracks are fun, as they're usually somewhat hard, but Bowser's Castle Free is just such an easy track. There are walls around the majority of the track, so you basically can't fall off, and the flumps that are scattered throughout the track are pretty easy to avoid. Mario Raceway is the most basic Mario Kart course ever. That's all I've got to say about this track. Ghost Valley 2 from the SNES is the next track on the list, and I genuinely don't know what to say about this track, as it's just so mediocre. There's nothing that's really bad about it, but then on the other hand, there really isn't anything good about it, so yeah, it's coming in at 26. The only reason Mario Circuit from Mario Kart Double Dash gets the 25th spot on the list is because of the soundtrack, as it's just amazing. But other than that, there's the Chain Chomp and Piranha Plant that both make for cool obstacles, but they're just so easy to avoid. Desert Hills from the DS is track number 24. The soundtrack for this course is great, and it has a really nice setting, but it's just so easy, and so racing on this track can get boring after a few times. Peach Beach is a track that was so close to greatness, but whoever was designing the track kinda just gave up halfway. For the first half of the race, you drive across a nice looking beach that then splits up into 2 paths, and there are these things called cataquacks that start running after you along the beach. Then the other half of the track is literally just a straight line. They could have at least added like a turn or two, but no, they just ruin the track by making it a straight fucking line. That's it. Based on just the soundtrack and visuals, Daisy Circuit is a great track. The race takes place in a beach setting that just looks really nice, and the soundtrack is an absolute bop. However, seeing as the track is just a road with some basic turns, it isn't really anything special, but it's still a decent track. The newest Mario Circuit, at the time of Mario Kart Wii's release, is the 21st track on the list. My favourite thing about this track is the scenery, as we get a great look at the Mushroom Kingdom that we don't see very often. Also, the Goombas that are scattered across the track make for some unique obstacles, but they're pretty easy to avoid. Much like Peach Beach, Sherbetland from the N64 was so close to being an amazing course, but they just had to go and add slippery ice that just made racing on this course horrible. However, the part in the track where you have to make your way through a cave makes for some challenging driving, and seeing the penguins waddle around was always really funny to me when I was younger. Shy Guy Beach is coming in with the 19th spot on the list. I don't really understand why this track gets so much hate, as I really don't think it's that bad. The cardboard cutouts that make up the scenery look pretty nice, the soundtrack goes well with the beach setting, and the track is just really unique. Also, the cannonballs that get shot out at you by the Shy Guys in a pirate ship make for some cool obstacles that actually get in your way. Peach Gardens from the DS takes the 18th spot on my list. Other than the horrible soundtrack, everything about this track is great. The hedges and chain shops that are found throughout the course split up all the drivers, which makes for some awesome races, and the moles that pop out of the ground are a great finishing touch. Now, I really like all the tracks that I mentioned from here on out, and so deciding which ones I thought were better than the others was pretty hard. But anyways, DK's Jungle Parkway is such a fun track that deserves much more attention. The race takes place in this beautiful looking jungle that is complemented by an amazing soundtrack. Also, there's this boost that shoots you all the way to the other side of the river, and it just makes the track that much more fun to play on. Dry Ruins is one of the best desert tracks in Mario Kart ever, and so it takes the 16th spot on the list. You start the race off by having to avoid a few spinies, and then you go through this temple that is gradually filling up with sand. That has bats flying around, and then you have to perform tricks to avoid the sand. Also, like most tracks in the game, the soundtrack for this track is awesome. Delfino Square from the DS is the next track on the list. Other than the huge jump over a bridge, actually racing on this track isn't anything special, as most of it is fairly simple, but the setting and soundtrack of Delfino Square are both great, and so it takes the 15th spot on the list. Grumble Volcano is one of the more challenging tracks in Mario Kart Wii, and I love it. As you're racing, the track is literally falling apart from underneath you, which makes the race more and more tense as it goes on. Then on top of that, there are fireballs being shot out of a volcano in the distance that are pretty hard to avoid. Bowser's Castle from the Nintendo 64 is one of the best tracks from Mario 64. Throughout the course there are countless swamps you have to avoid. You then make your way over not one, but two bridges that are both above lava, and you do all of this to an amazing soundtrack. Toad's Factory is full of some unique obstacles that, tied in with some great music, make for an amazing track. You make your way through these stomping things, then you do some jumps over shipping container platforms. After that you drive over some directional speed boosts, and yeah, it's just a very solid track. Wario's Gold Mine is one of the most iconic tracks from Mario Kart Wii, and it takes the 11th spot on my list. The soundtrack is fucking perfection, and the actual course itself is great. You make your way down a huge slope that leads to a gold mine, and then the gold mine then splits into two paths, and then there's room for a trick or two towards the end of the lap. Waluigi Stadium is an incredible track that I think deserves much more recognition. There are just so many tricks that you can pull off on this track that just make it so fun. There's this really awesome part in which you make your way past piranha plants and these spinning fire wheel things, all while being able to perform tricks off the side of the track. However, the only bad thing about this track is the music, as it just doesn't really go along with the action-packed racing that takes place on this track. To start off DK Summit, you get shot up to the top of a snowy mountain, and then you make your way all the way down the mountain, going over a stupid amount of speed boosts and jumps that just make for some really fast-paced and fun races. Moonview Highway was my favourite track when I was younger, because I thought it was just so funny that actual cars could squash you and make your car flat. Because of this, I would go out of my way to make sure that I got squashed, and so the track takes the 8th spot on my list. Due to all the cars, this track is pretty challenging. Also, this track reveals that all the characters in Mario Kart are really small, which I guess is pretty cool. DK Mountain feels more like an adventure rather than an actual track. You start the race off by entering a cannon that shoots you to the top of a volcano. You then make your way all the way down and pull off some jumps while avoiding some rocks that are rolling around, and then you make your way across this extremely sketchy bridge to finish off a lap. Everything about Rainbow Road is just awesome. From the soundtrack to the actual course itself, and the fact that you can literally see Earth is just the cherry on top. You start the race off by going down this huge slope, and then you make your way through multiple different jumps and boosts, all while struggling not to fall off, as there are no barriers around the track at all. Much like DK Mountain, Maple Tree Way feels like an adventure rather than a race from a Mario Kart game. You start the race off by heading down a tree, and then you jump into this cannon that sends you to another tree that has wrigglers in it. After that, you make your way across a small bridge, and then to finish the lap off, you drive down this huge net that you can perform tricks off. Mushroom Gorge takes place in a valley made up of mushrooms, and is one of the most memorable tracks in not only Mario Kart Wii, but in the entire Mario Kart series, as you spend a good portion of the race bouncing on huge mushrooms in a cave. And along with a great soundtrack, this track is just so much fun to race on. Track number 3 is Cooper Cave. After you start the race, you make your way to a stream that takes you down to a tube that's underwater. In the tube, there's another stream that when driven in makes you faster, while there's also electricity you have to try to avoid. Then at the end of the tunnel, you get boosted out and end the lap by driving around a waterfall. This, along with an epic soundtrack, make for an incredible track. Bowser's Castle is one of the more difficult tracks from Mario Kart Wii. From the start, you come across a few tight turns and thwomps trying to crush you, and then in the middle of the race, there is this huge half pipe, and at the end of the half pipe is a mechanical Bowser who's shooting out fireballs from his mouth, and you've got to perform tricks on the half pipe to avoid them, all while trying not to fall into lava. That one part of the race of the half pipe is just so stupidly fun. Coconut Mall is the first and final track on my list, and everything about this course is just perfect. To start the race off, you go up escalators that lead you into the mall, and from there the track splits up into 2 floors. You then go through the mall, and to leave the mall you get 2 options, with one of them being this huge jump that 6-year-old me absolutely loved. And then you have to drive past Miis in cars that you actually made, which is just so cool. And the Coconut Mall soundtrack is the best piece of video game music ever. And with all that said, it's the end of the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel for more Nintendo content, and yeah, thanks for watching.